We are live on Facebook. Let's see what else we have to do here. We muted everybody. We got original sound. Okay. So welcome all to the evening or morning class, depending on where you are. So we're going to play another video of my favorite dancer. And let's see, that's it. All right, here we go. This is just a short one, Caitanya. Let me just send a message to tell everybody I'm online. All right. Let's see, share a screen. And share sound and optimize video. Here we go. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidakacharya. Also Tada Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Savaya, Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Mahashila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shilahvidas Thakuru Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Majuranam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasadevi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Budle Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Dejatarne. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Karanjana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Caitanya Charitamrta, continue reading from the third chapter of the Adi Lila about the external reasons for our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent. And as we've described before, external reasons means, as far as we are concerned, spreading the Krishna consciousness movement and displaying what the Lord's pastimes are like so that we will get attracted. And doing the Yuga Dharma, which is the Sankirtan movement. And of course, yesterday most of the verses were based upon comments on the verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna Sango Parshadam Yagyahi Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Sumeda Sa. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna. The other was the Sango Panga Parshanam Yagyahi. Yeah, Sango Panga Parshanam Yagyahi Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. In other words, in this age of Kali, Krishna appears but not blackish, and he appears chanting his own holy name, Sango Panga Parshanam. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam. Sango Panga Parshanam, and he appears with his associates and paraphernalia, which are his weapons. Instead of killing people, he kills the demoniac mentality in our hearts, Sangopangastra and those who have sufficient intelligence, brain substance, instead of Gobar brain, that means cow manure brain, they worship the Lord in this particular form. Okay. So we'll probably finish up this chapter today. So let's start. And as we've usually done before, I will read in the beginning. We'll allow other devotees to read, and you should raise your hands, not on your video window. That would be a mistake. because I'm not going to look at your video window, but in the participant area, raise your hand if you're interested in reading also. Okay, so let's start with text 88. Hold on, let me get all this set on my screen. Got it. Apana lukaite Krishna nanayatnakar tatapi tanhara bhakta janaye tanhar. Alrighty. And the translation is, Lord Krishna tries to hide himself in various ways, but nevertheless, his pure devotees know him as he is. And some Sanskrit here. Ulangita trivida shima samakti shahi samvavanam tava parir radima svabhavam mayalabalena vavattapi Guyamanam pashanti kechin anisham tvad ananya bhavaha. O my Lord, everything within material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy, but nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. Actually, I want to comment about this. It says, my Lord, everything within the material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. So generally, we think in terms, not generally, 9% of the time, practically all the time for conditioned souls, we think in terms of time, space, and thought. So generally, we think that if someone dies, okay, let's say someone died, okay, let's take my age. I'm 71. So if someone died 71 years ago, plus 9 months, 9, give or take some months, that's someone who was reborn as me. Not necessarily the case. Not necessarily. I'm not saying who I was in the last life, or what I was, or what sort of Rakshasa I was. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is that my last life might have been 10,000 years ago. We talked about this today with a devotee. And then the next birth is now. How is that? You're simply thinking in terms of mundane time. And it's not necessarily true that I had to wait in suspended animation for that period of time either. Because time is relative, according to Einstein, and according to the Vedic literatures. Let me just straighten this thing out by my feet. Hold on a second. Time is relative. For example, if you are in Brahmaloka and you hesitate for one instant, like little less than a second, there's like a year on the Earth planet. And that's what happened when Lord Brahma felt really guilty about stealing the calves and the cowherd boys. He hesitated and came back a year later, but it was only like instant in his time. So we cannot, or we should not, we can do anything we want, basically, within reason, but we should not project our mundane understanding of time upon even the way the material world functions. What to speak of how the soul functions. What to speak of how the spiritual world functions. Sometimes it's described, if we were absent from the spiritual world, it's not even an instant. Although our lifetime might have been 100,000 years on the Earth planet or some other planet in the material universe. So it's all just a very relative expression of time. And even on this Earth planet, Prabhupada gave the example of how some insects, like fireflies or whatever, Prabhupada gave the example of fireflies. He said they can live their whole lifetime in one night. Or even we know amoebas or parameciums who are able to have children without wives because they just undergo mitosis. They just split. Pretty cool. So, I mean, their lifetime's not that long either. So, anyway, so we live 100 years according to earthly estimations. Lord Brahma lives 100 years according to his estimations. And Sahasra Yuga Paryantam, 1,000 of our earth Divya Yugas. That means 4 yugas put together. Satya, Treta, Dwarpa, and Kali. 1,000 of those are equal to Lord Brahma's one day. And 1,000 of those are equal to Lord Brahma's. Of course, they don't manifest, but the time span is equal to his night. That's pretty nice. And every day Krishna appears, once in a day of Lord Brahma. But there's 14 Manu cycles. There's just a lot. A lot. And they go through 72 Divya Yugas. So that's a lot of time between Krishna's appearance. For us. But for Lord Brahma, no problem. Every day Lord Brahma gets to see Krishna. Hey, that's pretty cool to be Lord Brahma. You know what's happening today? Well, we get to see Krishna around the middle of the day. So, anyway, so the point is, don't try to understand Krishna, the spiritual world, using your mundane intelligence and projecting your mundane understanding. Don't try to do that because time can be compressed or time can be expanded. Just like when Krishna dances his rasa dance. It's a whole night of Lord Brahma. Oh my God. It's a long time. And it passes like an instant for the gopis. So time is compressing, expanding. Don't ask me how it happens. I am not God. And I am not even a demigod. I'm not even a good politician. We'll just speak of that. Anyway, so this is a very interesting verse. Everything within the material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. So in the spiritual nature, there's no limitation of time or space or thought even. So who can understand Krishna? This verse is also quoted from the Stotra Ratna of 13 of Yamunacharya. Everything covered by the influence of Maya is within the limited boundary of space, time, and thought. And even those things are relative. Space, time, you know, Einstein said that. Well, he didn't talk about thought, but he talked about space and time. And also, there was this principle called uncertainty theory, that your consciousness or thought can influence space and time. Quantum mechanics. Whew. So, and actually, the scientists who study quantum mechanics have said that if someone says they understand quantum mechanics, they don't. So, someone said, what to speak of Krishna? If someone thinks they understand Krishna, they don't. Okay, I thought it was a very interesting explanation. Even the greatest manifestation we can conceive, the sky also has its limitations. From the authentic scriptures, however, it is evident beyond the sky is a covering of 7 layers, each 10 times thicker than the one preceding it. That's earth, water, fire, air, divine intelligence. And ultimately, false ego. The covering layers are vast, but with or without covering space is limited. Because each one is like 10 times as big as the other one. Our power to think about space and time is also limited. Time is eternal. We may imagine billions and trillions of years, but that still will be an inadequate estimate of the extent of time. Our imperfect senses, therefore, cannot think of the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor can we bring him within the limitations of time or our thinking power. His position is accordingly described by the word ulangita. He is transcendental to space, time, and thought, although he appears within them. He exists transcendentally. Even when the Lord's transcendental existence is disguised by space, time, and thought, however, pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can see him in his personal features beyond space, time, and thought. In other words, even though the Lord is not visible to the eyes of ordinary men, those who are beyond the covering layers, because of their transcendental devotional service, can still see him. Wow, that is deep. The sun may appear covered by a cloud, but actually it is the eyes of the tiny people below the cloud that are covered, not the sun. If those tiny people rose above the cloud in an airplane, they could then see the sunshine and the sun without impediment. Similarly, although the covering of Maya is very strong, Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, text 14, Taiva yesha gunamai, mama maya, durachya, mameva ye prapodyante, ayam metang, durantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. To surpass the influence of the illusory energy is very difficult, but those who are determined to catch hold of the lotus feet of the Lord are freed from the clutches of Maya. Therefore, pure devotees can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but demons, because of their miscreant behavior, cannot understand the Lord in spite of seeing the many revealed scriptures and uncommon activities of the Lord. So again, as we went through the Bhagavad Gita, we came across this word demons. So very, very important to define what it means or what Prabhupada means by demons. It doesn't mean rakshasas, it doesn't mean man-eaters, it doesn't mean bad politicians. It means basically who are those who do not follow the injunctions of the Vedas and are against the supremacy of the Lord. That's it. It's not like dangerous creatures. So, asura, swabhave Krishna kabu nahi jane. Lukaite nare Krishna bhakta jana stane. Those whose nature is demoniac cannot know Krishna at any time, but he cannot hide himself from his pure devotees. And of course, you have that verse, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yogamaya Samavrita, that for those who are foolish, I hide myself, my potency hides me. Mama Maya Tarachya. Purport. People who develop the nature of asuras like Ravananda Ranyakashipu, I mean, they were definitely frightening asuras, can never know Krishna, the personality of Godhead, by challenging the authority of Godhead. But Sri Krishna cannot hide himself from his pure devotees. This reminds me of the story of the Titanic. Titanic was a really big ship made of steel, and everyone was thinking, this ship can never be sunk. In fact, there was the statement that not even God could sink the ship. So they were challenging God to sink the ship on its maiden voyage. It sank because it ran into an ice cube. Just a little, I know it wasn't, oops, let me turn my phone off. People have no common sense to call me at this time. So, let me just turn that on. Mute. So, anyway, so if you challenge God, that means, well, there is no God. That puts you in the quality of demon. Now, you may be like what probably called a teeny demon. Not like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna. Still, the qualities are there. Prabhatim cha, Nivrtim cha, Jnana, Vitur, Asura. You do not know what is proper, what is not proper. Anyway, that's basically it. So I think we can go to our next verse. And as we go to our next verse, we will allow Pran Govinda, who we're allowing to unmute, to read. Okay, it's all yours.
Okay, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada, Maharaj.
All goes to Prabhupada, so take it away.
Dau bhuta sarga lokesmin. Am I right? That's 91. Yeah. Yes.
91, right.
Dau bhuta sarga lokesmin. Daiva asura evacha. Vishnu bhakta smita daiva asura tad viparjaya. There are two classes of man in the created world. One consists of demoniac and the other of the godly. The devotees of Lord Vishnu are the godly, whereas those who are just the opposite are called demons. Purport. This is a verse from the Padma Puran. Vishnu Bhaktas, or devotees in Krishna consciousness, are known as devas, demigods. Atheists who do not believe in God or who declare themselves God are asuras, demons. Asuras always engage in atheistic material activities, exploring ways to utilize the resource of matter to enjoy sense gratification. The Vishnu Bhaktas, Krishna conscious devotees, are also active, but their objective is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service. Superficially, both classes may appear to work in the same way, but their purpose are completely opposite because of difference in Krishna consciousness. Asuras work for personal sense gratification, whereas devotees work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Both work conscientiously, but their motives are different. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant for devas or devotees. Demons cannot take part in Krishna conscious activities, nor can devotees in Krishna consciousness take part in demoniac activities or work like cats and dogs simply for sense gratification. Such activity does not appeal to those in Krishna consciousness. Devotees accept only the bare necessities of life to keep themselves fit to act in Krishna consciousness. The balance of their energy is used for developing Krishna consciousness, through which one can be transferred to the abode of Krishna by always thinking of him, even at the point of death. 92. Acharya Gosai Prabhur Bhakta Avatar Krishna Avatar Hetu Jahara Hunkara. Advaita Acharya Goswami is an incarnation of the Lord as a devotee. His loud calling was a cause for Krishna's incarnation. Krishna Jodi Prithivite Karen Avatar Prathame Karen Guru Varger Sanchara. Whenever Sri Krishna desires to manifest his incarnation on earth, first he creates the incarnation of his respectable predecessors. Pitamata Guru Adi Jata Manna Gana Prathame Karena Savar Prithivite Janama. Thus, respectable personalities such as his father, mother, spiritual master all take birth on earth first. Madhava Ishara Puri Sachi Jagannatha Advaita Acharya Prakat Haila says Shata. Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri, Srimati Sachi Mata and Srila Jagannath Mishra all appeared with Advaita Acharya. Purport. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends in his human form, he sends ahead all his devotees who act as his father, teacher, associates in many roles. Such personalities appear before the descent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before the appearance of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there appeared his devotees like Sri Madhavendra Puri, his spiritual master, Sri Ishwar Puri, his mother, Srimati Sachi Devi, his father, Sri Jagannath Mishra, and Sri Advaita Acharya. Prakatya dekhe Acharya sakala sangsara, Krishna bhakti gandha hina vishay bevahara. Advaita Acharya, having appeared, he found the world devoid of devotional service to Sri Krishna because people were engrossed in material affairs. Keho pape, keho punne, kare vishay bhoga, bhakti gandha nahi jate jai bhava roga. Everyone was engaged in material enjoyment, whether sinfully or virtuously. No one was interested in the transcendental service of the Lord, which can give total relief from the repetition of birth and death. Purport. Advaita Acharya saw the entire world to be engaged in activities of material piety and impiety, without a trace of devotional service or Krishna consciousness anywhere. The fact is that in this material world, there is no scarcity of anything except Krishna consciousness. Material necessities are supplied by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We sometimes feel scarcity because of our mismanagement. But the real problem is that people are out of touch with Krishna consciousness. Everyone is engaged in material sense gratification, but people have no plan for making an ultimate solution to their real problems, namely birth, disease, old age, and death. These four material miseries are called bhava roga, or material diseases. They can be cured only by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the greatest benediction for human society.
Okay, stop there. Okay, I'll say a few words and then we can go on to the next reader after that. So, a few words is whenever Krishna appears, he appears with his associates. And I was just reflecting when I heard these particular statements about Lord Ram's appearance, where all the demigods were ordered to either expand as their children or come down themselves as monkeys and bears in order to assist Lord. And then I was thinking about Krishna's pastime, where Lord Brahma went to the shore of the ocean of milk where the demigods had prayed, and then he and the demigods were ordered to take birth on the earth planet to help Krishna in his pastime. So you have this
Yes.
common denominator of Krishna's coming down in any of his various incarnations, where different devotees, associates, or even demigods are ordered to expand or come down, like Lord Brahma came down to act as Haridas Thakur. Also, it's mentioned that Prahlad Maharaj manifested as Haridas Thakur. And it's just really interesting how the Lord is arranging when he comes down for it's like a musical, a Broadway musical or a Broadway play for all the players to come down. And not only the players to come down, but for these scene designers to come down. What do I mean by scene designers? Let's take Vrinda Devi and Purnamasi. Of course, Vrinda Devi particularly is the scene designer. Uh, and she arranges for all the scenes in Braj. And she expands herself to arrange for all the scenes outside of Braj. And then you have Purnamasi, who is Yogamaya, who arranges for people to forget that Krishna is God. And she also comes down in all the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. And so everything is like Prabhupada said, like a traveling road show, like some play that travels from one place to another. And the players are there to enact these particular pastimes. It's like a whole arrangement: the scenery, the illusions, the magic, the associates, the expansions. I mean, I would say, like millions of entities come down. And if you read about Lord Ram's pastimes, you'll see that millions and millions of monkeys were there. not just like tens of millions of monkeys. I mean, the whole planet was covered with monkeys at that particular juncture, or Kim Purushas. Okay, so our next person is Champakalata. She's going to read from the next verse, and you can unmute yourself now. I gave you permission.
Thank you,
Champaka.
Gurudev. Lokagati dekhi acharya karuna hridaya vichara karina lokera kaiche hitahaya. Seeing the activities of the world, the acharya felt compassion and began to ponder how he could act for the people's benefit. Purport. This sort of serious interest in the welfare of the public makes one a bona fide acharya. An acharya does not exploit his followers. Since the acharya is a confidential servitor of the Lord, his heart is always full of compassion for humanity in its suffering. He knows that all suffering is due to the absence of devotional service to the Lord, and therefore he always tries to find ways to change people's activities, making them favorable for the attainment of devotion. That is the qualification of an acharya. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu himself was powerful enough to do the work as a submissive servitor, he thought that without the personal appearance of the Lord, no one could improve the fallen condition of society. In the grim clutches of Maya, the first-class prisoners of this material world wrongly think themselves happy because they are rich, powerful, resourceful, and so on. These foolish creatures do not know that they are nothing but play dolls in the hands of material nature, and that at any moment, material nature's pitiless intrigues can crush to dust all their plans for godless activities. Such foolish prisoners cannot see that however they improve their position by artificial means, the calamities of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age are always beyond the jurisdiction of their control. Foolish as they are, they neglect these major problems of life and busy themselves with false things that cannot help them solve their real problems. They know that they do not want to suffer death or the pangs of disease and old age, but under the influence of the illusory energy, they are grossly negligent and therefore do nothing to solve the problems. This is called Maya. People held in the grip of Maya are thrown into oblivion after death, and as a result of their karma in the next life, they become dogs or gods, although most of them become dogs. To, be- to become gods in the next life, they must engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, they are sure to become dogs or hogs in terms of the laws of nature. The third-class prisoners, being less materially opulent than the first-class prisoners, endeavor to imitate them, for they also have no information of the real nature of their imprisonment. Thus, they are also misled by the illusory material nature. The function of the acharya, however, is to change the activities of both the first class and the third class prisoners for their real benefit. This endeavor makes him a very dear devotee of the Lord, who says clearly in the Bhagavad Gita that no one in human society is dearer to him than a devotee who constantly engages in his service by finding ways to preach the message of Godhead for the real benefit of the world. The so-called acharyas of the age of Kali are more concerned with exploiting the resources of their followers than mitigating their miseries. But Sri Advaita Prabhu, as an ideal acharya, was concerned with improving the condition of the world situation. Apani Shri Krishna yadi karena avatara, apane achari bhakti karena prachara. Advaita Acharya thought, if Sri Krishna were to appear as an incarnation, he himself could preach devotion by his personal example. Nama vinu kali kale, dharma nahi ara, kali kale kaiche habe Krishna avatara. In this age of Kali, there is no religion other than the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. But how in this age will the Lord appear as an incarnation? Shuddha bhave kariba Krishnera aradhana, nirantara sadainye kariba nivedana. I shall worship Krishna in a purified state of mind. I shall constantly petition him in humbleness. Aniya Krishnere Karun Kirtan Sanchara, tabe se Advaita Nama Safala Amara. My name, Advaita, will be fitting if I am able to induce Krishna to inaugurate the movement of the chanting of the holy name. Purport. The non-dualist Mayavadi philosopher who falsely believes that he is non-different from the Lord is unable to call him like Advaita Prabhu. Advaita Prabhu is non-different from the Lord, yet in his relationship with the Lord, he does not merge with him, but eternally renders service unto him as a plenary portion. This is inconceivable for Mayavadis because they think in terms of mundane sense perception and therefore think that non-dualism necessitates losing one's separate identity. It is clear from this verse, however, that Advaita Prabhu, although retaining his separate identity, is non-different from the Lord. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu preached the philosophy of inconceivable, simultaneous oneness with the Lord and difference from him. Conceivable dualism and monism are conceptions of the imperfect senses which are unable to reach the transcendence because the transcendence is beyond the conception of limited potency. The actions of Sri Advaita Prabhu, however, give tangible proof of inconceivable non-dualism. One who therefore surrenders unto Sri Advaita Prabhu can easily follow the philosophy of inconceivable, simultaneous dualism and monism.
Okay, you can stop right there. That's actually extremely important point because even though Advaita Acharya, Advaita Prabhu, as mentioned here, Prabhu means master, is exactly the same as Krishna. He is Krishna. He is Lord Chaitanya. Still, he's manifesting himself differently, so you have simultaneous oneness and difference. So this philosophy of Achinja Beta Beta Tattva, which means simultaneous one and difference, pervades the Krishna conscious understanding more in all aspects, even in so far as the Lord with his material energy, the Lord with his spiritual energy, the Lord with the jiva souls. But this is a particular case where Dvaita Prabhu is God in the same way that Lord Chaitanya is God, but his manifestation is, let us say, very specifically different than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And because he's an expansion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, expansion of Krishna, the same thing, he's understood to be the appearance of the Mahavishnu, of Sadashiva, like that. And so you may question, what is Sadashiva? Is he Lord Shiva? No. Actually, I asked this question of one of my godbrothers, Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, who was an expert Sanskrit Sanskrit personality. I was going to repeat expert twice. But anyway, he was expert in Sanskrit. And I said, what does it mean when we say that Dvaitacharya is Sadashiva? Who is Sadashiva? And then Gopi Pranadana Prabhu explained to me that Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva, in other words, the same category as Krishna in the spiritual world, from whom the Lord Shiva in this world appears or expands. So he's a Vishnu Tattva expansion, even though he's called Sadashiva. And actually, the word Shiva is a name of Krishna, too, in addition to specifically referring to Lord Shiva. And the name Shiva means auspicious. So remember that. Very, very important. So that's Advaitacharya, who is Vishnu Tattva. Lord Nityananda, who is Vishnu Tattva. They're both God. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's also, obviously, Vishnu Tattva, God. And he is appearing differently in terms of Advaitacharya and Lord Nityananda. This is Achincha. Achincha means inconceivable. I mean, I cannot conceive. I understand, accept it 100%. But as far as conceiving it, because I have never experienced that in this world, that the same person can be simultaneously present in different places, all together, exhibiting different aspects of his personality. Now, sometimes you get these yoga expansions, but the yoga expansions of different persons, that means someone who practices hatha yoga, whatever, are like television expansions. What is a television expansion? That means if you're watching the same television show on 20 different televisions, let's say you go into Best Buy. Now, some of you may not know what a Best Buy is. But let's say if you're in Australia, New Zealand, you'll know what a Kmart is. Yes, they have Kmarts in Australia and New Zealand. That's where you have the TVs lined up in a row. And all the TVs are on one channel. Most of them are on one channel. And so every TV that's on the same channel is showing exactly the same thing. It may be a little tinted a little bit differently, but it's the same exact person doing the same exact thing on the same channel, of course. Of course, there's different channels. We understand that. We're just giving an analogy here. So that's called a television expansion. When a yogi expands himself, he does television expansions. They're all doing the same thing. And that can be really frustrating if the yogi is marrying several different wives like Shobhari Muni did, because they'll all be doing the same thing. And how they accommodate it, don't ask me. How Shobhari Muni accommodated it, don't ask me. But when you have Krishna expanding himself, let's take the example of Krishna marrying what? 16,108 wives. That was nothing for Krishna. And each and every one, when Narada Muni was visiting his houses in Dwarka, was doing something different. Someone was playing chess, Krishna in one house playing chess, another one he was talking politics, another one he was talking with his children, another one he was talking with his wife, joking with the wife, whatever. And they're all different simultaneously. And that's Krishna's expansions in Dwarka. What to speak of Krishna's expansions like we're talking about here, the Mahavishnu, Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram, Advaita, who is Mahavishnu. This is inconceivable how this can take place. And if God was not inconceivable to us, he would be God. I mean, even the point that God could lift up a mountain with the pinky of his left hand. I mean, come on. Sometimes I think about it and I think, how did he balance the thing? I mean, I can understand how strong he is, but how could he balance it? Did he find the exact center of gravity? Anyway, that is what I mean by try to impose your materialistic understandings about the absolute. Okay, so because I spoke a little bit too much, now we're going to take questions. Let me kindly unmute you so you can ask questions, and hopefully I can answer the questions. Okay, you're all unmuted. Who wants to ask a question? Question.
I have a question, Maharaj, if no one else has.
You always have a question. Okay, ask your question.
Maharaj, I was contemplating because your explanation is so sweet. I want to get little more. Other day you discussed that when sweetness supersedes greatness, then love conquers. Beloved, in a sense, God is both great and sweet.
Yes.
So awareness of Krishna's opulence, greatness, it evokes submission. And discussion or hearing pastimes, awareness of Krishna's sweetness evokes affection. And we
also
need both.
submission. Also submission.
Not
When
so
you
much
love someone,
submission, more of affection.
and well, affection and submission.
But
Well,
we need submission before developing affection, or it should
yeah,
go simultaneously.
if you're coming from the material world, then that's why we do Vaidhi Bhakti, to get a little bit of submission. But automatically, if you have affection, if you love someone, then you're willing to do whatever they want to please them. That's submission. The submission based upon opulence is not sweet submission. That's based upon overwhelming impression of someone's greatness. But the submission based on love is actually what we're hankering for. Because that's not based upon overwhelming impression of someone's greatness. Just like if someone, I mean, give you an example. Of course, it's a pretty mundane example. Let's say someone comes to my door and he has a gun. I will become very submissive to him, and he says, "Offer your obeisances." Yes, sir. Please accept my humble obeisances. Roll over. Okay, roll over. Beg. Okay, beg. Give me your money. Okay, here's my money. So there's some fear there, obviously, but because of power, I'm fearful. So what do we find in the Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter? Who became fearful in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Not Krishna, for sure.
Arjuna.
Who?
The demons.
Arjuna. So Arjuna became very, very submissive to Krishna. Okay, you're God. I'm going to do whatever you want. Alrighty. So, but Arjuna was not pleased with that type of submission or that type of understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjuna said to Krishna, let me see your form as God, and let me see your original form after that. Four-handed form and then the two-handed form after that. So that's, it's really impressive when you have this Vaikuntha mood that you're overwhelmed. Oh, my internet connection is going unstable again. Oh my God. So you're just overwhelmed with the greatness of God. And it's completely different than being overwhelmed with, let's say, love of God. Because it's mixed. Of course, in the Vaikuntha planets, they do love Lord Narayan, but it's mixed with the knowledge of the opulence of the Lord. And that's why Lakshmi cannot enter into the Vrindavan pastimes, especially pastimes of the gopis, because her devotion is mixed with knowledge of the opulence of the Lord. Yes, she's submissive. I mean, she's so submissive that she remains at the lotus feet of the Lord. And she's actually afraid. There's actually fear there. That's brought out in the Caitanya Mangal, where Narada Muni is serving Lakshmi, and he gets benedictions from Lakshmi, and Lakshmi says, "What do you want?" And he says, "I want Mahaprasadam." and because she's the one who's giving Lord Vishnu food and getting the Mahaprasadam. And Lord Vishnu has ordered her never to give Mahaprasadam to anyone. And so she, in a very awe and reverent way, approaches Lord Vishnu and says, Lord Vishnu, my Lord. Of course, maybe she doesn't say Lord Vishnu, she says, my Lord. I have a problem. And he says, what's the problem? And she says, you ordered me never to give away any Mahaprasadam. And then he gives her a solution. He says, you can give it away when I'm not looking, basically. But so she's very submissive to Lord Vishnu. Whereas, and then you contrast that with Srimati Radharani, who is very submissive, although she appears not to be submissive. She's a left-handed gopi, so she appears to argue with Krishna sometimes and things like that. But she's submissive in the sense of pleasing Krishna. And that pleasure in doing is much more pleasing to Krishna than Lakshmi's fearfulness. And that's why Lakshmi can't enter into that sort of relationship, because she has that fearfulness and appreciation of Krishna as the supreme. And also she wants to maintain her position as Lakshmi. She's attached to the opulent worship of Krishna. So what that indicates is if one wants to enter the Braj pastimes, one cannot be attached to the opulent or the awe and reverence worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But of course, don't imitate Radharani at the same time. So Radharani is ultimately submissive to the Lord so much that she and the gopis are willing to go to hell to please the Lord. Whereas the other devotees, they're only willing to serve the Lord according to the rules and regulations. You know that story.
Yes.
I had a headache. Krishna said to Narada Muni, the only thing that will cure my headache is what? The dust of the feet of my devotees. So Narada Muni goes to the devotees, various devotees, and he says, Krishna has a headache, he's suffering. And the devotees say, we can't give the dust of our feet, because this is against the rules. Krishna's God. Oh my God, we're going to go to hell. You understand?
Yes.
And so Radharani and the gopis, they say immediately, take the dust from our feet to cure. So who is more submissive? You answer the question.
Gopis.
Gopis are submissive.
But Maharaj, I was
They're willing
referring.
to, just like Krishna stole the gopis' clothes. He never steals Lakshmi's clothes. That's funny. I never thought of that. He never steals Ram never steals Sita's clothes or embarrasses her like that, or never demands that Sita violate ordinary rules and regulations and ruin her reputation. Just like in Indian society, reputation is so important. So who amongst Krishna's devotees is willing to renounce their reputation to please Krishna? Not because of awe and reverence, because of pure love. So who is more submissive? The devotees who worship Krishna in awe and reverence, or the devotees who worship Krishna in just pure love, not even knowing that Krishna is God? Right? Prove my point.
Very
Gopis
good.
are more submissive because they're more willing to do more to please Krishna, go to hell, and break the rules than any other devotees are. So the more intimate, of course, in the material world, the more intimate with you are, the person, the less submissive you are, the less you're responsive towards their desires.
Mm-hmm.
The more selfish you get. I mean, you're talking about intimate relationship, sexual relationship. I'm talking about now. it becomes more selfish, the relationship, rather than selfless. We're talking about, illicit life. We're not talking about people who are nicely married, like that. It's not a sannyas class. But the more you have this illicit relationship in this world, the more selfish the people become.
Mhm.
I mean, just look, oh my God. Just look at the example of oh my God, should I mention? Anyway, a political person in America who's quite famous. And he's so much into illicit life and brags about it. I mean, it's one of the most selfish persons that I've ever, I can't say encountered, but, I've ever heard of. This illicit life, one's into the illicit life, then they become very selfish because they're not concerned with the other person's feelings. They're not concerned with the other person. They're concerned only with gratifying their own senses. But in the spiritual world, the more intimate one gets, the more you become concerned with gratifying Krishna's senses. So here's a question from Sumuk in the chat window. Gurudev, in which mood should we serve the Supreme Lord, in the mood of Lakshmi or Srimati in the mood of Lakshmi? Because we're not on that level of Srimati Radharani. And then he says, but the problem is if we serve in the mood of Lakshmi, then we end up in Vaikuntha. When it's time, then you can serve following the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan. But it has to be the right time, because if you try to follow the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan prematurely, you will be following the footsteps of Durga, serving Durga's footsteps. Because it really, the whole point of the gopis is complete selflessness. I mean, that's the point. I mean, we look, there's the external manifestations of the kissing and the dancing and all that other nice stuff. But the real point is the intense desire to please the senses of Krishna, not to be pleased by Krishna. Just like in this world, if one sees a boyfriend or girlfriend, it's to be pleased or served by the other person. Just like sometimes the ladies, sorry about this, ladies, you're hankering for a husband. Why? Because you want someone to fulfill your needs. I'm not talking about something illicit right now. I'm talking about, your needs to protect me. Get a teddy bear instead. Anyway, sorry about that. Sorry, I'm going to get criticized for this one. I'll be in trouble. So anyway, we have certain needs. So I look at the computer. This computer fulfills certain needs that I have. Like today, today someone gave me some computer present. And I just said, oh, I'm so pleased with you. And I gave this man, my blessings. Because he gave me a computer gadget. The other day, someone bought me a new phone. So I gave him blessings. But that's, it's like John F. Kennedy said about pure devotional service. Don't ask what Krishna can do for you, but what you can do for Krishna. Even Kennedy understood that point. So anyway, the whole point is that we worship in the mood of awe and reverence, because if we jump to this intimate mood, it'll just make us more lusty, because we will be thinking of Krishna as fulfilling our desires.
Mhm.
And that's vicarious enjoyment. If someone listens to the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis and they're not ready for it, they will feel themselves sexually stimulated. And that's very bad. And Prabhupada said instead of being purified, they will be putrefied. So one has to approach Krishna step by step. Yes, in the mood of Lakshmi right now, and When you become stable, steady in devotional service, nishta, when you're not interested in the girls and boys of this material world, then we can talk about Raganuga Bhakti. Then, at that point, except for Rishikesh will always remain on the platform of Vaikuntha. Hope that's all right, Rishikesh. I see Rishikesh. I wouldn't say that unless Rishikesh was there.
Maharaj, can I ask you one question relevant to this?
Oh, it's time
Oh.
to say goodbye right now.
Okay.
Your questions. Tomorrow you got to give someone else an opportunity to ask questions.
Okay. Sure.
Say goodbye if I have my evening program. What is Teddy Bear's name? A teddy bear is a stuffed animal. In case you didn't know what a teddy bear is. Oh my God, we got people who are challenged here online. So anyway, stuffed animal, a stuffed bear that fulfills your needs to hug someone. That's a teddy bear. All right. So on that happy note, we will see everybody tomorrow, which is Sunday in Australia, New Zealand, and Saturday here in America. Okay, it's nice to see everybody. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada.